Hello everyone, welcome to the session on how learning sports science can also help us learn sports psychology in a better manner. In this particular session, in this session 3, the outline is to integrate sports science and sports psychology and what are the skill sets to becoming a sports psychologist. To become a sports psychologist, it is important to learn the sport. And we also need to learn the language of the sport. We need to understand the rules, the regulations of the game, the history behind the sport, because then we will be able to understand the sport better and we will also be able to understand the psychology better of the athletes and we can help them accordingly. And like sometimes you may see that some of the athletes may be extremely aggressive, and also sometimes you can also notice that some of the athletes are winning medals. Coming back to the example on aggression, sometimes we don't know why they're aggressive. Is it because the time is running out and they really want to win? Is it because there is lack of support and coordination in the team that is actually causing aggression? So when we understand the game and also understand the team and understand what situation may be causing certain reaction, we will be able to be more present and also support the athletes better. You might have seen that a number of athletes and individuals performing exceptionally well at the highest level. What you actually don't see is that they have, apart from the individual, the parent and the coaching team, there is a sports science team which is working to help the athletes with their highest performance. So sports science, for that matter, sometimes we also some people have a degree with masters in sport and exercise sciences. So sports, mainly people work with the athlete population for maximizing the health and performance of the athletes, whereas with exercise science it's more to deal with the general population. So when we are talking about sports sciences, we are talking about athletes, and the focus is on maximizing performance, it is on optimizing health, and also the focus is on minimizing injuries. At the very beginning of my career, I was extremely fortunate to actually work with a sports science team, and that really helped me look at sport from a very different perspective. And that is something that we are going to be doing today. We are going to understand and see how, in order to understand and work for the psychology of the athlete, how learning every sport science discipline is also important, because you can't really predict and say that this is a particular reason because of which the athlete has not really performed. When you actually understand the whole of the sport sciences, you will be able to support the athlete better. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have experts in various disciplines of sports sciences who are going to be talking about why it is important to learn their particular discipline and how sports psychology can be integrated with their respective sports science field. So let's just try and understand this, right? This is how an athlete actually looks with the sports science support system. In the middle, you can see that there's an athlete and he's supported with a number of sports science disciplines. He's supported with respect to his health and also management of injuries by the sports medicine team. He's supported with respect to what he needs to eat, what kind of diet is going to help him with respect to getting the highest performance from the sports nutrition team, and how he can actually optimize his mental health and well-being from the sports psychology, what kind of strength and fitness and conditioning activities required from the strength and conditioning expert. And then you have the coaching staff and the parent. When an athlete is supported from all these perspectives, he somewhere holistically gets all forms of support in order to go out there and achieve his maximum performance. Now let's look at the next slide. This may feel like a lot of pressure on the coaching staff and parents without the sports science team. So you have an athlete who has got the parent and the coaching staff. And without the sports science team, somewhere, the high performance may not happen to the extent it could have happened. You might have also noticed, right, like with a number of like sometimes you may actually, when you're observing an athlete, you may actually notice and think that, what, this athlete is running so fast. But when we actually do a scientific analysis of the athlete's run, we may feel that, he's not up, his running is not up to the mark. What may seem normal to the regular eyes may not be reflecting the same in the scientific way. And that's the reason why science is actually important in order to integrate it to the field of sports. Right now, we're going to have Dr. Pralay Majumdar, who is the Senior Advisor, Sports Education, Center of Excellence in Sports Science and Analysis from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, Chennai, who is going to be talking to us about the importance of sports science. And he's also going to be talking to us about, how psychology and sports science is important. Hello, sir.
Hi, Priyanka.
Right. So, my first question to you is, what is the importance of sports science?
Well, Priyanka, as I always used to reiterate that, whenever we used to see an international competition, we often ask ourselves that how the human body moves so uniquely. I mean, barring there are different problems, different challenges. So the people who are on the job round the clock, those people are designated as sports science professional, and they are graduated themselves in the area of sports sciences, and day in and day out they are with the athlete for improving their skill, improving their uh, the mental aspect, which is very, very, very important. And I always feel that these people, those who are working with the athlete round the clock, they should be credited for that.
Right, absolutely, sir. So now could you also tell us the importance of sports physiology? What happens in the field? Uh, what is sports physiology as a science like?
Well, we have different verticals in sports sciences. One of the vertical is exercise physiology, where we used to evaluate the physiological limit of the athletes, that what is his maximum limit, that in terms of aerobic potential, anaerobic power, then the transition from aerobic to anaerobic, that can be the peak lactate, the threshold of aerobic to anaerobic transition. So these are the meaningful destination for planning the training schedule. The people are working on that. But apart from exercise physiology, there are many aspects of sports sciences. One of them is a movement science or kinesiology biomechanics, which deals with different aspects of human movement in terms of force, acceleration, power. Then these particular domain is very specific for improving the performance aspect of the athlete in terms of physical component, I mean, physics part of that. There are nutrition, which is immensely important now in the present days, because it is what the athlete need to take, what they should avoid. So all this comes together. What is important again is, Priyanka, is that the injury. When you are out of your playing ground, then the athlete's mental frame, possibly you understand that working with the hockey for so many years. So one challenge, how to quickly get back physically to the ground, but how to you need to solve their mental focus to the games. and how you can handle the coping strategy during their layoff, which is very important part.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, sir, you've mentioned a lot of importance. You've brought in the importance of sports science plus, all the other sports science disciplines like nutrition, biomechanics, sports physiology, and also you've spoken about the importance of sports psychology as well. I think words of understanding from Dr. Majumdar was fantastic for all of us. Moving forward, I am going to focus on what is sport and exercise medicine. you know Initially, when I started working in the field of sports psychology, I would always think that I had this misconception that sport and exercise medicine specialists are only working on the injury management of the injury with respect to the athletes. But the more I started understanding the medical team and what they are aiming at, I realized that they're actually helping the athletes have optimum health, health, well-being, so that their performance becomes to the highest level. And of course, working on preventing the injuries and also supporting them with the injuries is also an important role that the sport and medicine specialists perform. And the sport and exercise medicine team in itself is so huge. You have the doctor, you have the physiotherapist, you have their own team, which is so vast and wide in order to support the athletes. Let's look at what sport and exercise medicine is defined as. It is the management of medical problems of exercising individuals at all ages and all levels of participation. It's the pathophysiology, biomechanics, and optimization of human performance, and the use of exercise as a therapeutic modality in the treatment and prevention of disease. The promotion of health and prevention of disease of injury at a population level. So, in my experience, there is a great integration of sports and exercise medicine and sports psychology. There have been times in my private practice where, the medicine experts, if at all an athlete reaches out to them and says that, what, I'm not able to sleep well, they are doing an initial assessment to identify if there are any stresses which are involved in the athlete's life, which could be at the mental level. And they definitely tell the athlete that rather than prescribing medicine straight away to you, it's so important for you to go and consult the psychologist. you know and at the same time, sometimes if they feel that if the athlete has been complaining greatly in the injury rehabilitation process, the pain has been extremely high, the athlete has been speaking about certain psychosomatic symptoms, even when the injury has been healing, they do refer the athletes out for the psychologist to see them. And at the same time, sometimes if the athlete has just had a surgery, they also recommend them to see a psychologist. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to have Dr. Colonel Anup Krishnan, who is a sports medical doctor, and he is going to give us his insights on the sports medical discipline and how sports medicine and sports psychology is integrated.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Colonel Dr. Anup Krishnan. I am a sports physician and I have been involved in the treatment, management, and prevention of injuries in athletes, sports persons of all levels for the past 15 years. Whenever I get an athlete who is injured, or whenever I talk about injury prevention to an athlete, I always make it a point to involve the sports psychologist in my sports rehabilitation team. Sports psychologists play a very important role in handling the psychological aspects of injury management and injury rehabilitation. Whenever we start with the rehabilitation process of an athlete, we try and get the athlete to start sessions with the sports psychologist. Whenever an athlete is injured, there is a lot of apprehension in his mind regarding whether he will get better, whether he will be able to get back to his previous level of fitness, whether he will be able to continue playing sports, whether the team which is working on him is adequate and can do the job. So, all these issues, plus the issues of depression and low motivation and low morale, all these issues are handled very well by having a sports psychologist on your team. They conduct one on one sessions with the athletes, they conduct team sessions with the athletes and the team, and play a very important role in helping us bring the athlete back to full fitness and in return to sport. So, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the sports psychologists who have been part of my team and have been part of my journey in bringing athletes back to sport and back to game after injuries, and have helped several athletes return to play at full fitness, or even in certain cases more fitness than what they were prior to injury. So, thank you, and I hope that this tribe of sports psychologists increase and multiply over time. Thank you and Jai Hind.
So the next field is sport biomechanics. So sport biomechanics is the study of movement of living things using the science of mechanics. Sport biomechanics is the study of body's movement during sporting activities using the principles of mechanics. I think I learned a lot as a psychologist even from the biomechanist. Because so many times what would happen is the athletes may actually say that they're feeling very confident, but when a lot of biomechanical analysis was done, the feedback from the body revealed that they were probably nervous, or they were feeling certain other emotions which they were not able to communicate. So that for me was a very insightful learning from the field of biomechanics. So how the mind and body can be actually integrated. Even certain things that we actually feel and sense as individuals can have a huge impact on our performance. And another thing is, of course, performance analysis. It's become a new discipline in itself. That's also part of biomechanics. And I think I learned a lot working with, people in the field, because there's so many times what happens is, you get so much data with respect to who is passing the ball to whom. And, is there a correlation between the kind of relationship that is shared by people in terms of who passes the ball to whom. It gives us an indication of the trust level within the team in terms of these statistical reports which are actually generated. And apart from this, with biomechanics, I feel that sometimes the coaches also can give right kind of feedback to the athletes in terms of what would they have to perform, how do they actually have to perform, and what kind of feedback could actually be sufficient and helpful for the athletes to a very large extent. And there are a number of teams also who take decisions based on the statistical analysis and decide that which of the goalkeeper needs to play a role with respect to the penalty shootouts. So that way I think it's extremely interesting to see the combination of biomechanics, and of course with respect to injury rehabilitation, I think again there is an integration of all the sport disciplines to work together for the benefit of the athlete. So now let's listen to Dr. Shubham Badyal. So he is a biomechanics expert. He's worked in the field of clinical and sport biomechanics, and he's also worked with athletes at all the levels. So let's listen to him and understand what sport biomechanics is and how it can be integrated with the field of sport psychology.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Shubham Badyal, and I have been working in human movement analysis for over 10 years. I have had the privilege to work with a diverse group of sports scientists working with athletes at different levels of their careers. Sports sciences help athletes to achieve their peak performance, injury prevention, and rehabilitation after an injury. Today, I would like to talk about the role of sports psychology and its importance in an athlete's journey from a biomechanical perspective. Imagine a world where athletes not only optimize their physical movement but also harness the power of their mind to unlock their full potential. Sports psychology and sports biomechanics work hand in hand to help athletes to achieve these goals. Sports biomechanics help to optimize physical movement and technique for better efficiency and effectiveness. However, by incorporating sports psychology, athletes can enhance their performance by fine-tuning their skills on focus, confidence, and motivation. Sports biomechanics provide objective data of an athlete's performance, whereas sports psychology offer tools to help interpret the feedback constructively. This helps both athletes and coaches to implement the changes suggested by biomechanical analysis. In terms of injury prevention, with a better understanding of both physical and mental aspects, athletes can reduce the risk of injury and recover faster and more effectively. Sports psychology also equips athletes with mental toughness and resilience needed to perform optimally under stressful conditions. This mental strength complements the physical preparation provided through biomechanical analysis. Addressing physical and mental aspects sets stage for a sustained success for an athlete's journey. Therefore, integrating sports psychology and biomechanics can have a powerful impact on an athlete's performance, well-being, and long-term success. Thank you.
So next we have sport and exercise physiology. You already listened to Dr. Majumdar previously, and exercise physiology is the study of how the body responds and adapts to physical stress. It's also, sport physiology is the application of exercise physiology principles to guide training and enhance sport performance. So in my experience, what I've noticed is if the athletes are feeling tension or there is some sort of stress, that also has a huge impact on the way they go out there and perform in the physiological analysis also. Now, sport nutrition. I think we all know, eating right is extremely important for the athletes, and that is something, sport nutritionists extremely work towards. The sport nutrition is also very different from the regular nutrition because athletes require different levels of nutrients than the non-athletes. And sport nutrition is the study and implementation of a diet plan that is designed to increase the athletic performance. So basically the right kind of food and the right amount of fluids and nutrients are required in order to maximize the performance, and also with respect to the recovery part of it. And I think psychology and nutrition, always work hand in hand, because what you eat also has a huge impact on the mental health of the athletes. Some of the athletes who actually have complained of, having lack of mental energy and focus. So, but then the more analysis revealed that it was because of having certain nutritional deficiency. This particular athlete had iron deficiency, because of which he was not really able to focus, to a very large extent, and he would get tired very easily. And that was something which was very interesting. And also sometimes in my personal experience, what I've noticed is sometimes athletes, especially in weight category sport, they may go on a crash diet, especially during the competitions, and not eating the right kind of food has a huge impact on their mental health to a large extent. And that is where I think psychology, nutrition, really work hand in hand. And also sometimes athletes may be battling eating disorders, they may be purging their what they eat, or maybe overtraining. So basically giving them the right guidance becomes important, and that's where psychology, nutrition, all the science disciplines come together to support the athletes. So now we have Ms. Geeta, who is a sport nutrition expert, and she has worked with a number of high performing athletes, and she will be talking to us on the role of nutrition and also how it can be integrated with the field of sports psychology.
Hello, this is Geeta. I'm a practicing sports dietitian with a postgraduate diploma from the International Olympic Committee. How can sports psychologists collaborate with sports nutritionists? By just taking care of the nutrition for an athlete, from training to tournament. In many ways, we add value to not just the health and performance, but also the mental abilities, which is nothing but the well-being. An athlete on the competition day who's a ball of nerves can actually uphold his status by taking care of certain nutrients, be it magnesium or omega-3, to even addressing certain nutritional deficiencies such as the B12 or iron and even vitamin D. So for him to keep calm from consuming, say, even a green tea or a matcha tea, to even how he responds to the caffeine can change the game. So I urge for all sports nutritionists or the psychologists to collaborate for these outcomes to help an athlete to not only be healthy but also to enhance his performance.
So we also have next sports strength and conditioning. Um, we have Mr. Declan, who is a very well-known expert in the field of working with athletes. He's worked with a number of high-performing athletes. He will be talking to us, very soon. But before that, in my personal experience, what I've seen is I used to see this one particular group of athletes. What I felt was, of course, their physical strength was not up to the optimum, and also mentally I felt that they have so much capability and potential. When they actually worked hand in hand with respect to the improving the strength and conditioning, and also with respect to their mental focus, I felt that they reached another level. The physical strength started giving them a different level of confidence and helped them perform at a different level, especially in competitions. And at the same time, with strength and conditioning experts, we psychologists work especially with respect to injury recovery and maximizing performance. Sometimes athletes are scared to come back to the sport, so we really give them that kind of support which is actually required, working together. So now let us listen to Mr. Declan, who is a sports strength and conditioning expert, and he's worked with a number of high performing athletes. So I think getting his insights is going to be extremely useful for us right now.
Hi there, my name is Declan Lathau and I'm a strength and conditioning specialist. And in this sort of small video, I'd like to bring up this point about why psychology is so important, even in strength and conditioning. Well, the first thing is that, as a strength and conditioning coach, though we work with bodies, right, we want to make the body stronger, we want to make sure that the body doesn't get these small niggles and minor injuries that they go through. Though that's our main role, it's important for us to also work on the mind. And how do we do that? Is obviously we have to be positive. Now, when we're training, we're preparing, say, an athlete to get ready for a competition. Obviously, we also don't know, how the results are going to be. Are they going to win? Are they going to lose? We don't know. But belief and hope is so important. And this applies across sports, whether you're into something which is about fighting, or whether you're playing a sport like tennis or badminton or anything. When the person gets in there, right, obviously it's all about belief. So in our small kind of way, by which where we work in the gym or maybe on the courts or maybe on the ground, we still have to be positive and use elements of psychology, to make sure that our conditioning and our programming still produces the desired results. Now, obviously, when a trained psychologist comes into play, it makes it even more specific. They know exactly, what the person should be thinking at certain times, the arousal state. There's so much more to the mind than just sort of, thinking that I'm going to win. And that is where a trained psychologist comes in. And I'm sure this course that you're going to do will give you a lot of insight into that. I would also be doing it, so that I can also learn quite a bit about how the mind works. But yeah, for us, whether you're in strength and conditioning, whether you're a physiotherapist, or whether you're a nutritionist, I think in all sports and across all spheres, the mind does play a huge role. And it's important that we understand how the mind works. And in our small sort of way, even in the gym, we tend to be positive with people. And if we could know more, like what this course will teach, it will only help us get better. So I'm sure this course will be a good one. And for me and for all those who are going to do this as well, good luck to everyone. Thanks.
All right. So I think in the first section we have discussed about what are the different sports sciences, and basically we've discussed about the role in the sport performance of athletes. Right now, what we are going to do is, as sports psychologists, there are certain skill sets which are actually required by sports psychologists. So let's look at, what are those skill sets which are actually required by sports psychologists, and if you are interested to pursue, what can you do about it. So what is the educational criteria? In this section, we are going to look at what is the educational criteria, where can you actually work, and what are the things that you can learn in order to get into the field of sports psychology. So what can you study to become a sports psychologist in India? The minimum educational criteria is a master's degree in psychology to work as a sports psychologist in India. And is there an MSc or PGD sports psychology course in India? Yes, there are master's programs which are available. Masters, that is master's level, that program is available for sports psychology in India. Some of the places which are actually offering them are National Sport University Manipur, Central University Rajasthan, Guru Nanak Dev University Amritsar, Tamil Nadu Physical Education and Sport University. There could be many other places. You could definitely look it up on the internet and find the places for yourself. And some of the colleges and universities which are offering a PGD sports psychology courses are NSNIS Patiala, and Jain University. You have Sport Management Research Institute, Sports Next Educational Institute, and there are many other places, so probably you could take a look at them and Google them for yourself. And to become a sports psychologist, you have to be an athlete. This is one of the questions which we get asked very frequently, and I would say that it does help to come from a background in sport, but it is not a mandatory criteria. For you to be a sports psychologist, I think understanding the sport is important. Understanding the level and the competition at which the athletes compete is also extremely important. Having said that, I think learning the sport, if you're passionate about taking sports psychology, learn the sport and also play the sport. Even though you haven't really played the sport, I think playing the sport, starting to play the sport becomes extremely useful for you. So basically, you can work with central government organizations, state government organizations. They are actually recruiting sports psychologists to work with their, academies and with their respective organizations. So you could work with them. Otherwise, you have sports teams, academies, club, leagues. You could work for them. And you can also work as faculty for colleges and universities. And as sports psychologist, you can also be a private consultant for training high performance sport teams as well as corporate teams. And at the same time, as we are talking about the organization, we have a quote here from Amit Gadkari, and he is a founder and director at Nut Sports Private Limited, and he speaks about how Nut Sports is playing an important role in the mental conditioning of the athletes and is trying to make it as a part of their daily training program. What we need to understand is that, one, there are sports psychology organizations also which are supporting a number of academies and also supporting different organizations providing sports psychology support. And at the same time, as sports psychologists, when we are working for some organizations like this, it's so important for us to understand what is their mission and vision and what is the main objective that they are trying to actually focus on, and then probably support them accordingly. And two things which are very important. One is the organization that you are going to support. Understand their mission and vision. If their focus is the mental health and development of the athletes, then you have to provide the training accordingly so that you meet that mission and vision for that organization. And if you are consulting for a respective company, it's also important for you to understand their mission and vision so that you can provide the support accordingly. And I think one of the key takeaways from this particular message is the fact that we give a lot of importance to physical performance, but at the same time we really have to focus on providing as much as psychological support to athletes on a very regular basis and make it as a part of their training program. And what are the skill sets which are actually required by sports psychologists to excel? One is, of course, your counseling and training skills, the academic qualification that you come with, being very thorough with the assessments, working on yourself, because so many times we work with athletes, our own triggers can actually, create a hindrance in helping the athlete. So it's important for you to understand what are your personal issues and work on them, very important. Taking supervision from experienced sports psychologists is also important, and I go for supervision even now. And the last thing is, I think, learning the sport. I think in this particular session, we have spoken about two important things. One is how it is important to learn the sport science and how it is important for us to develop our own skills, especially if you want to pursue sports psychology in future. Yes, with this particular insight and input, I would like to end the session. Thank you so much.